Jarrett Stidham, the guy that got thrust into the mix, the guy who was clearly put on the field as a business decision by the Raiders. It wasn't aimed at trying to salvage the Raiders' playoff hopes by pivoting to Jarrett Stidham. And the Raiders got dragged a little bit yesterday on one of the pregame shows. I think it was Bill Cowher, who was apoplectic that the Raiders would fold the tents and bench Derek Carr while they still were alive mathematically for a playoff berth. Well, they're trying to avoid owing Derek Carr $40.4 million. And if he gets injured yesterday or this week coming up and he can't pass a physical by 3 days after the Super Bowl, they owe him $40.4 million, period. That's why they did it. But to everyone's amazement, possibly including Jarrett Stidham himself, he went out and had a great showing. 23 for 35, 365 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. We were so worried about how Devonte Adams was going to react to the benching and exile of his close friend Derek Carr. One of the big reasons Devonte Adams handpicked the Raiders as his destination after 8 years with Aaron Rodgers. Adams was incredible with 153 receiving yards and a couple of touchdowns, including that beauty toward the end of regulation. It's what we did not expect. We did not expect the Raiders to rise up. Look at all that red at Allegiant Stadium. Good Lord. Yeah, those fans didn't expect to have an exciting game. Jarrett Stidham gave everyone an exciting game, Miles.
Yeah, he sure did. I mean, credit to him. He was ready for his moment. And, guys with the Raiders said it all week that they felt like he was ready and they knew that he understood the offense because he'd been with Josh McDaniels before. And so when you get your opportunity, right, what do you got to do? You got to kick down that damn door. And that's exactly what he did. Now, I thought it was interesting, though, that Devonte Adams said after the game, everybody's shocked but us. We knew that this would happen and da-da-da-da-da. And, this is still my dream franchise, and I've now surpassed Tim Brown for most 100-yard catching games in a single season, and surpassed the single season record for the Raiders as well for receiving yards. So it's one of those games where Jarrett Stidham really gives the Raiders brass something to think about, right? I mean, he's going to be a free agent. Presumably the Raiders want to go out and get a new quarterback. But if they want to draft one, then they could sign Jarrett Stidham as one of those bridge guys and see what happens next year and probably feel all right about it.
Well, that's what's amazing. There's already going to be, I think, unprecedented quarterback movement as it relates to veterans changing teams, whether it's via free agency, guys getting cut and becoming free agents like Derek Carr, or trades like possibly Derek Carr. Although I know that the reporters out there who are on pregame shows need to have a certain amount of Sunday splash reports. Yeah, okay, the Raiders are going to try to trade Derek Carr. They're not going to be able to trade Derek Carr. They're not going to be able to thread that needle, and Mark Davis is not going to want to go to bed every night for 5 weeks worrying that someone is going to do to Josh McDaniels what Josh McDaniels did to the Colts 5 years ago when there was an unofficial deal that when the time came to make it official, he said, oh, no, thank you, I'm not going to do it. It's not going to happen. They're going to have to cut him. Jarrett Stidham is now a guy who is rocketing toward unrestricted free agency. And he is delivering. He's putting himself onto that list of available quarterbacks that teams are going to be evaluating and sifting through as they decide what they're going to do about their quarterback position. And, we were texting about this last week on the PFT writer thread, the idea that there are fewer settled quarterback situations for teams in the NFL right now than unsettled. And as this offseason approaches, Jarrett Stidham now did enough in that one game to at least get people to go back and evaluate film of everything he's ever done, preseason, hell, all the way back to college. Let's see who Jarrett Stidham is. Let's see what he's about, because we should take him seriously as an option for our team. And it's going to be a buyer's market at quarterback this year. It's going to be a game of musical chairs. There's going to be guys out there looking around like the John Travolta gif of like, what happened to me? It's all going to happen. And now Jarrett Stidham is in that mix as well. And he played his way into it yesterday against the best defense in the NFL.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, part of it is that he played that well against that particular defense, right? I mean, this is one of those defenses that has looked special throughout the course of the season. And the only team that's really given them true fits has been the Kansas City Chiefs. Well, the Chiefs kind of do that to everybody, except I guess the Denver Broncos. But I mean, when you look at then Jarrett Stidham and that Raiders offense, I I mean, that's not one that usually has been one to write home about, at least under Derek Carr. And now maybe that has to do with the fact that Stidham has that much more experience with Josh McDaniels than Derek Carr did. And Derek Carr's been in a lot of different offensive systems, and maybe this one just was not the quite right fit for him. I don't know. And I don't know how much of a real distraction it would have been for him to be on the sideline there. I mean, that's an entirely different discussion, I guess. But when you see what Stidham did yesterday, yeah, it does. It makes you go back, it makes you look, and it makes you think about, okay, what could we actually get out of this guy, and how could he possibly fit our system?
Well, and he's a guy, depending upon what kind of offers he gets from another team, he's a guy who could be on your depth chart as your backup if you would bring in Tom Brady or Jimmy Garoppolo or trade for Mac Jones or Baker Mayfield, a guy that Josh McDaniels was very smitten with entering the 2018 draft, and a guy that Josh McDaniels had the best seat in the house to watch him do something magical on a Thursday night last month. McDaniels was the one who was on the wrong end of that thing that Baker Mayfield did that made us all lose our minds. For a Rams team that was already done to have that night, McDaniels was there to see it. So I think there's four guys that McDaniels is going to consider, and you can add Stidham into that mix, and maybe there's a way to keep Stidham and bring in somebody else with whom McDaniels is very familiar, and the Raiders all of a sudden have their quarterback position under control. And look, I don't know how big of a distraction Derek Carr would have been if he had actually been with the team and at the game, but it's clear that that relationship is over. And the main reason that I believe they're not going to be able to trade him is they have to get some cooperation from Carr to trade him. And why would Carr cooperate with them at this point? I know I wouldn't.
Right.
And I'm not going to criticize him if he doesn't. What he should say to the team is, and I wrote this yesterday, two things. One, cut me, or two, my favorite line from Goodfellas, F you, pay me. Those are the options. Keep me on the roster and owe me $40.4 million fully guaranteed, or cut me before that becomes vested. I'm not agreeing to a trade. I'm not agreeing to a restructured contract. You cut me or you pay me. That's it, and that's what he should do. And if he does anything less than that, Myles, he's a sucker.
Well, I mean, look, I'll say this too, Mike. A year ago, or now it wasn't even a year ago, but months ago, back when Derek Carr agreed to this contract extension, I sat in this chair and you were saying, well, they have an out after the first year. And I'm like, well, why would they need to do that? Derek Carr's been good. Who's to say he's going to be bad? Like, I'm an idiot because look at where we are and look at what they're going to have to do. So I think that this is one of those weird situations, right? And maybe it's not even that weird. I'll say this. I don't really understand why it's a distraction for Derek Carr to be there. I don't know if he wanted to go home, the team wanted to send him home, he just agreed to it, whatever it happens to be. But if Matt Ryan can get benched twice and he's still there, if Eli Manning can get benched and he is still a part of the team when he was on that really, really long streak, I don't really get it. To me, Derek Carr, I would want to hear from Derek Carr. And if it were me, I would want to put my side of the narrative out there. It's like, I want to play. I don't necessarily want this to happen. I love the Raiders. I love this team. I understand what the business is, but I don't know. I wish we'd heard Derek Carr say his piece and that, he would have been there to support his team, but it is what it is.
I kind of thought that we'd have at some point this weekend an exclusive Derek Carr sit down with someone who would be very friendly to him and not ask him any tough questions and allow him to kind of speak his mind. And I won't be surprised if the Week 18 pregame shows, because we'll have them on Saturday. There are two games. We'll have it on Sunday. Everybody's paying attention to the final week of the regular season. I'm going to go ahead and make my prediction now. There will be a hand-picked Derek Carr interview with someone who will kiss his ass, not ruffle his feathers, and let him speak his piece, maybe in his modified country accent, the same one that we hear from Aaron Rodgers from time to time, about what happened, and there's no hard feelings, and whatever. I have a feeling that's coming up at some point. Maybe he's going to save it for the playoffs. I don't know, but I think it'll be this coming weekend. But my advice to Derek Carr is very simple and it's very clear. You tell the Raiders, cut me or pay me. That's it. Nothing else. And if you do anything else, you're a sucker, and I'll say it. I'll say it if you do. I'll support you if you say cut me or pay me, and I'll call you a sucker if you do anything other than that. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.